So I pulled the torque tube out of my 88, my red 88 with 260,000 miles on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild it. So that means taking out the extension shaft, putting a new bearing in, re-greasing everything. But we'll go through the whole process. I'm just holding my phone, so I'll have to break this up into sections. But I'll try to show the process as much as I can. So I've got all my stuff here. I have a new wheel bearing here, the driver. I got a puller to take off this is called the companion flange, which has to be marked. And actually this is the disassembled torque tube from my gold 88, which is in perfect condition. This one from my red one, this has 140,000 miles on it. This has 260,000 miles on it. Basically, this is the other one, the 140,000 mile one, disassembled. Anyways, so basically what I'm going to start off with is just kind of showing you how bad the grease is here over the years. I plan on using this grease here. Probably any kind of wheel bearing grease we'll use. The manual does list a specific grease, but I mean, look at how this is, you know, it's probably been like that for years. So a good wheel bearing grease, I would say, would work. So once I get that disassembled, then I'll start showing you kind of the specifics with the teeth, and we'll check it on we'll check the spline coupler on the pinion, on the diff. This is the one out of my gold one. So let's get started. And first things first is I'm going to get the companion flange marked, make some mating marks on it, and pull that off so that I can take out the extension shaft. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so I've got my puller on the companion flange here. Now, what I've done, let me just try to get in there. You probably won't see it. Yeah, it's going to be too hard to see, but I've made two marks, actually using a little drill bit here. I've seen people do this different ways. They use a punch. You can scribe it, whatever. But the point is that this extension shaft needs to be put on the same way as what they call this, the companion flange. Now, it's kind of weird how the book shows how to do it. I really don't understand how how you make the mating marks. So when I take that off, I'll probably show you. But I've just put one tiny little drill mark on the companion flange and one on the extension shaft. So I'll go ahead and get the puller started. I sprayed some WD-40 inside of here. It seems like the first time you take these off, they're real stubborn, but after you get them off, after that, they're good to go. So just got to be careful you put your puller on straight, that you don't damage anything. So this does take quite a bit of force to get these off. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll see about getting the extension shaft out of the actual torque tube. So I've got the companion flange off now, and you can see, let's zoom in here, how I made a little mark right there with the drill bit. Kind of hard to see that, but there's a little mark from the drill bit there, which is fine because nothing rides on this surface. And then let's see if we can zoom in on the companion flange here and show that. See right there, I made a little mark, and that's fine because you know, nothing rides on that surface, just a washer. So got those two marked. I'm assuming Mitsubishi does that. The only reason I can think that they want that, put it back in the same position, is maybe because they think maybe it causes a vibration. Maybe these two are balanced together somehow. I don't know. Anyways, they want you to put this flange, companion flange, back on the extension shaft the way it came off. The bearing, I'm going to change it, but it's a little noisy. But I mean, for 260,000 miles, pretty darn good. Yeah, so oh, there's a C-clip in here. I actually forgot to show that tool, but you'll need a C-clip tool, just a standard C-clip plier to get that out, but there's a C-clip in there, little spring clip. A lot of guys on the forum say potentially that the knocking noise comes not from sometimes you can have a good extension shaft and coupler, but they say potentially this bearing's knocking around. But you know, I pulled on it and I don't see any play in that. So in this case, I don't see that. So let me get that circlip out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the torque tube shaft itself on the ground and put a piece of wood on this and basically just tap it out with the hammer. It's just come out without too much effort. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So what I did was I took the snap ring out here, this guy right there, with my snap ring pliers. Then I just took that piece of wood right there, put it up against here. I put this on the ground, and then so I didn't want to hammer directly on this because you'll damage it. So I put the piece of wood there and basically just hammered it, and it just comes right out. It took about four whacks to knock it out. So I got the extension shaft out, and then to get the bearing out, basically I just flipped this upside down like that, and I took this really long bunch of 1/2 inch extensions together and just went from the other side and hammered the bearing out until it came out. So pretty straightforward. Let's see, what did I do with the bearing now? Bearing's around here somewhere. Anyways, so what I'm going to do is tomorrow I'm going to clean this tube up. I'll probably power wash it because it's just disgusting, and get in there and get all that crap out and all that dirt and disgusting stuff. Get that cleaned up nicely. What I'll still do tonight is I'm going to get this all cleaned up, and then we'll go into the car and take a look at the spline coupler. This is the one out of my Gold 88, but the other car. So this is still on the diff on this car. So we'll go down there and take a look at that. And what I'll do is once I got this cleaned up, I'll take that to the diff under the car, and I'll see how much play is in it. And it should be pretty good. There might be a little play because it is a little bit worn. But once we get some grease in there, that'll take up some of the slack. So I pressure washed the torque tube this morning. I got it all cleaned up, and I put a little bit of spray paint on it to make it nice and so it doesn't rust. And got the extension shaft cleaned up too. I sprayed that down, or I pressure washed that. Got my new bearing here. This is the bearing number in case anybody wants to look that up. National. Got my bearing driver. So I'll put this on the concrete ground, and I'll press the bearing in. So I drove the bearing in. It went in very smoothly, no issues at all. Very happy with that. And I got the snap ring installed right there. I really like this setup because, you know, it's a good setup. I like it a lot. You know, you drive the bearing in and you know you got it right. If the snap ring goes in, which it did, so good to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the extension shaft in, and then also have to grease it up properly. So I'll grease it properly and then get the extension shaft in. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so pretty hard to see what's going on here. It's under the car. I'm trying my best here, but I've got the extension shaft on the spline coupler on the diff. And I'm just gonna, I want to keep this straight as possible, so I'm not putting any weight on it to replicate how it's going to be when it's installed. But if I just do this, if I get this really straight, there's very little play in that. I'm very happy with that. See that just a little bit. You know, keeping this as straight as possible, so I'm not putting weight on it and misaligning it, you know, just so I feel good. I mean, that's nothing. I've seen guys put these on there, and whether they're holding them straight or not, they're just clunk, 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 clunk. So that's pretty good. I'm really happy with that. Let's take the extension shaft off real quick. Carefully. set that aside. Okay. And then you can look at the spline coupler here. Let's see if I can zoom in on that, but you can see the teeth look good. Nice and flat, not worn out. This is the perfect one out of my other car. Oops. I'll show you that anyways, but let's see. But you can see how flat those teeth are and wide they are. And it's pretty similar there. These are a little bit narrower, so there's some wear on it, but that's really good. I'm happy with that. Once it's all greased up, some fresh grease in there, we'll be good to go. That was not this, that little bit of wear was not the cause of the clunky noise I have, so it's coming from somewhere else. I'm gonna leave that coupler on there. That's the pinion seal behind it to keep the diff fluid out of the shaft. Seems pretty good. There's a little bit in there, but hardly anything, so it's fine. I don't need to take that off because it's pretty difficult to get that spline off there, so we'll leave that. I'm gonna get this all more cleaned up tomorrow, really good, get all that grease and dirt out of there. I don't want that to contaminate the the fresh grease. So okay, so I got the extension shaft installed, went in pretty easy. I was able to push it in quite a ways, and then to kind of make it go the last little bit, I used my race driver and I put it in there. And from the other side, I just tap it in a little bit. So I think it has to go in a little bit more, but it should get drawn in when I put the companion flange on. So let's go ahead and get the companion flange on. Okay, so I got the companion flange installed, and let's just see. Let me zoom in here and show you my mating marks there. So my mating marks are lined up, and basically I use the bolt. I use the large bolt and the washer to draw it in with the impact gun, just kind of holding the flange. And then I took the bolt out, the nut out, sorry, just to make sure my mating marks were good. So I'll put the washer and nut back on. I'll hit it with the impact tool a little bit, and then once this is back on the car, then I'll torque it down because it'll be connected to the differential. Then you can pull the parking brake or put your foot on the brake, and then you can torque that nut, because there's really no way you can, excuse me, there's no way that you can torque that without it being in the car, really. In fact, I don't even have an impact wrench that goes up to the specification, and I don't know why this Mitsubishi gives such a large range for torque on this nut, but you can see it says 116 to 159 foot-pounds. That's a huge range. So probably in the middle somewhere is good. I really don't understand why they do that. Why not just give, you know, a specific torque? So, you know, rather than going out and buying a torque wrench, I mean, the torque wrench is the right way to do it, but without, you know, without having to go buy a torque wrench just specifically to bolt one nut down, to torque one nut down, I'll just use my breaker bar, get it in there, and just make sure it's really tight, and that's about all you can do. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this stage. I'll get the nut and washer back on, tighten it up, and then I haven't greased the cup on the extension shaft yet. I'll do that right before I'm ready to put it in. On the differential, I still need to get it all cleaned up nicely. So I'll do that last, and it says to get good amount of grease in there, so I'll do that. And so yeah, that'll be the next step. Okay, so I've got the pinion coupler, spline coupler all cleaned up. I got all the dirt and grease and grit that was in there because you don't want that to contaminate the new grease. So that's all cleaned up, and I put some grease on the spline coupler itself. Torque tube itself, so I've got grease inside the extension shaft there, all greased up nice and good. And yeah, this thing's ready to go back in the car.